Everyone alive today was trained to fear one weapon: massive, rare, catastrophic, and almost never actually used in 70 years. But right now, in more countries than you'd guess, a much smaller weapon is being fired every single day of the week. And it doesn't look anything like a mushroom cloud rising over a city. It looks exactly like this: small and quiet. For 80 years, the phrase weapon of mass destruction meant exactly one thing to everyone on Earth: the atomic bomb. Hiroshima, Nagasaki, the entire Cold War. Thousands of nuclear warheads built by dozens of nations, and almost none of them ever fired. Nuclear weapons became something genuinely strange in human history. A weapon deliberately built to prevent war, not to start one. Nations spent trillions building them specifically so they would never actually have to use them. That's the entire idea of deterrence. That deterrence logic held for 8 straight decades, which is exactly why 1945 remains the only time nuclear weapons were used in real combat. While the entire world kept anxiously watching the skies for nuclear missiles, a completely different weapon quietly crept onto battlefields. Cheap, small, disposable. And unlike the nuclear bomb sitting in a silo, this weapon gets used constantly, every single day. Drone attacks in active conflict zones did not rise gradually at all. Between 2020 and 2024, they jumped nearly 4,000%. Ukraine gives us the clearest, sharpest picture of exactly what this dramatic global shift in warfare actually looks like. In 2023 alone, Ukraine built roughly 800,000 drones. By 2024, that number had already jumped to 2 million. This year, Ukraine's own production targets sit near 5 million drones, while UN human rights monitors track the civilian toll closely. Between February of 2022 and April of 2025, short-range drones alone killed 395 confirmed civilians. They also injured over 2,600 more, making drones the single most dangerous weapon for civilians in that entire war. Drones now account for the clear majority of battlefield casualties on both sides of this war, according to multiple independent military analysts. Rewind now to 2020, when Azerbaijan and Armenia fought a short war that military analysts still study closely today. Because cheap, expendable loitering munitions decided the entire outcome of that war, not tanks, not jets, not air superiority. Researchers studying that war estimate the cost-to-kill ratio at roughly 1 to 200, and sometimes as high as 1 to 500. A single weapon, costing only a few $1,000s, was routinely taking out military equipment worth many millions of dollars. That one relatively small war fundamentally reshaped how militaries everywhere now think about the true cost of modern combat. Off the coast of Yemen, Houthi forces used both aerial drones and unmanned drone boats to attack passing ships. Their goal was to disrupt one of the single busiest and most important shipping lanes anywhere on Earth. Container ships, oil tankers, and naval warships were all suddenly threatened, not by a nation's air force, but by a small militia. Global insurers and major shipping companies quietly rerouted entire trade lanes to avoid the threat, at a total cost of billions of dollars. This isn't only happening in active war zones far away. Along the India-Pakistan border, drones have become a routine daily feature. They're now used constantly for smuggling contraband, ongoing surveillance, and at times, direct weapons delivery across that tense frontier. It's a decades-old nuclear standoff between two nations. And now there's an entirely new, much harder to police threat flying underneath it. Neither government has yet found an easy or reliable way to stop a threat this small, this cheap, and this hard to trace. And this doesn't stop at national militaries either. Cartels, militias, and even organized criminal networks have all picked up the same technology. Because the real barrier to entry isn't a national defense budget anymore, at all. It's just a hobby shop and a laptop. What once absolutely required an entire army, now just requires a decent internet connection and a delivery drone. Here's the comparison that should genuinely unsettle you. Nuclear weapons have been used in actual combat exactly twice, both in 1945. Drones, by contrast, were used an estimated 19,700 times in active conflict settings in 2024 alone. One weapon sits quietly in reserve as a threat. The other is already working hard, every single day, right now. Nuclear weapons, for all their genuine horror, have mostly functioned as a kind of safety umbrella throughout modern history. A threat so severe and catastrophic that actually using it became almost completely unthinkable for any rational leader. Drones carry absolutely no such taboo whatsoever. They're cheap enough, deniable enough, and small enough to use freely. So leaders reach for them constantly and casually, with none of the hesitation a nuclear button would ever demand. That's not meant to be a comforting comparison at all. It's actually a serious warning about where real danger has quietly moved. The genuinely frightening part isn't just what drones have already done. It's the clear trajectory they're currently on. Production numbers keep climbing sharply every single year, and they show absolutely no sign of slowing down anytime soon. The underlying technology keeps getting cheaper and steadily more autonomous, while remaining far less controlled by any real rule. And the international rules that took decades to carefully build around nuclear weapons barely even exist yet for this. Every single year, this problem goes unaddressed. The next conflict on this growing list gets noticeably easier for someone to start. So the next time someone brings up weapons of mass destruction in conversation, ask them one simple, pointed question. Because the future of warfare clearly isn't a sudden flash and a mushroom cloud rising on some distant horizon. It's actually a quiet, buzzing sound, steadily getting closer, that almost nobody around you is watching or listening for. The underlying truth is genuinely simple. The entire world spent 80 long years carefully preparing for the wrong apocalypse. This isn't some distant threat safely confined to war zones that most people will personally never see. It's already quietly reshaping how ordinary ports, infrastructure, and even private homes are actively being protected today. Defense analysts across many different countries now openly describe small drones as the truly defining weapon of this decade. The exact same way that tanks once defined an entire previous century of modern industrial warfare. None of this actually means that nuclear weapons suddenly stop mattering or somehow become irrelevant to global security. It simply means we've been so intensely focused on the loudest threat that we completely missed the quieter one. Already at work. Now look carefully at the pattern one more time. Ukraine, Nagorno-Karabakh, the Red Sea, and Kashmir. Different continents, entirely, completely different conflicts. Yet the exact same weapon keeps showing up every single time. That's genuinely not a coincidence at all. It's already become the default choice for anyone who wants to project force. And they get to do it without ever paying the old, much steeper price that used to come with it. This has been Vault Line Works. Subscribe for more deep dives into the conflicts shaping our world.